Hey everybody, I'm the Rescue Mechanic, and today we're going to take a look at the inverted kit mod for the Logitech G920 that I have. This is from Jaditek. The kit that I bought has the inverted pedal kit as well as the clutch mod. I didn't buy the pedal mod. I didn't see the need to modify the pedals. It is just kind of cosmetic. So I'm going to go through a whole video today of unboxing this. We'll also do the build of the inverted pedal kit, how to get the pedals out of the original base to put them on the modded plate that you see here in the instructions, and also go through the steps for the clutch mod. And I did print off the instructions because I'm old school and I like to have a set of instructions with me, so probably they do send this to you after your purchase, which is some nice aftermarket support from Jaditech, so shout out to them on that. So let's go ahead and open up this box, take a look at what's inside, and get on with pulling this apart, putting this together, and see what it all looks like. So there we go. As you can see, we got the mounting plate for the pedals as well as the two side brackets that will give us that inverted angle. Everything we need to assemble the mounting plate and the side panels as well as the pedals is here in this bag. And then the clutch mod is here in a separate bag, and we'll pop this open and take a look at it later on. As an added bonus, they do include stickers. Always nice getting a set of stickers when you buy something. They do say to take the pedals off first, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Included in the packaging with the nuts and bolts is a 2.5mm Allen key, which is the size you need to take off the 6 Allen key bolts that are holding the pedals onto the base. So we do need to take all the screws off of the base, obviously, after we've removed the pedals. There are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 Phillips head size 2 screws that are in the middle of the entire base. And then there are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 Phillips head 1 screws that are 2 at the top, 4 across the middle, 4 across the bottom. These ones are deep inside the base, so you do need a longer screwdriver, right, to get down into the screws. So I've got my Phillips head 1 and Phillips head 2 screwdriver there, so let's get these off. And as it turns out, it does pay to read the instructions because I actually missed 2 more screws here. And then there's also 2 screws that are underneath the carpet grabber. So as you see, mine is collapsed, so you can't actually see the screws there in here. You just need to lift up on this latch and it releases the carpet grabber, and then you'll be able to see the screws. They're here and here. So as you can see, this literally just popped off as soon as you get the last 2 screws out. Might actually be better to do those 2 first and then the rest later. Last step is to release the wiring harness from inside the frame. There's just 2 screws that are here, Phillips head 2, that are holding the wiring harness down. And the pedals are loose now, so we can just remove them from the base. And you'll notice, I know this is upside down, but C is actually for clutch, B is for brake, and A is for accelerator, so they've actually labeled them forward for you based on their potentiometers that are on each pedal. Next step is we're going to go ahead and reinstall the pedals on the assembly, and we're going to install them in their inverted or upside down position, because obviously we're going to turn these upside down on the kit. So we want to make sure that the pedals are in the right orientation. Also going to need the Allen key from the toolkit again, the 2.5 millimeter, put the bolts back in, and of course the bolts we removed earlier. So remember the clutch and the brake pedal, they have the longer bolts, and the accelerator or the gas pedal has the smaller bolts. Okay, so now we can go ahead and put together the backing plate along with the stands. So obviously we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 holes on either side. Same thing with the brackets, they each have a hole each. These install such that the front of the backing plate sits inside this bracket. And the adjustable slots that are here for the pedals, the ones that are closest to the edge, this is the top of your backing plate. Of course, this is all indicated by the sticker that's here on the front. In the kit, of course, is all the nuts, washers, and bolts that you're going to need for this. So there's 4 M8 Allen screws, 4 washers, and then 4 nuts that go with it. You'll need the 6 millimeter Allen key that comes in the kit. They did also provide this wrench for the nut, but this looks like it's going to cut up my hands. So I went ahead and I grabbed a 13 millimeter socket with my socket wrench, and I'll be using that to put everything together. It does install with the bolt going through the front. Then the washer. And then the nut. Depending on your perspective, but anyway, in the kit there's going to be 6 M6 Allen key screws, obviously 2 for each pedal, and then we've got an M5 Allen key in there to tighten them up. And remember that each of the pedals is marked with a letter on the back or on the bottom: C for clutch, B for brake, and A for accelerator. You can also disconnect the wiring from the potentiometer just by pulling back on these tabs. Make sure you take a picture of this though, because you want to make sure you get the wire coloring orientation put back on properly. It's red, then green, then black, and the black one is connected to a grounding screw as well, so you'll need to remove that. I'm not going to do that. There's enough slack, I think, with the cables not to worry about it. So let's go ahead and get those installed. So I'm just going to put the top screw in first just to get everything started for each one. And if you want to make sure you're doing this right, the potentiometer goes to the left. And there you go. Once you've got all 3 started, then you can just stand it up to work on the rest. Now, of course, the nice thing about this kit is because these are slots, you can obviously adjust the distance for the pedals on all 3 of them to where you want, as opposed to with the Logitech base where these are fixed in position. And there we go. So as you remember with the Logitech base on the inside, all of these wires, this part here was screwed into place inside the base, and then these were clipped down. So Jaditech's solution to that is these 2 holes that are in the frame, and they give you a zip tie in the kit. So you just position all the cables here inside the frame just to make sure that they don't obviously get caught up in the pedal itself. And then of course we'll just feed the zip tie out the back in through here, pull everything up inside and zip tie all this together. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and put the clutch mod together, which I ordered with the inverted pedal kit. I'll just take a quick look in the bag to see what we get. Actually, it's kind of neat. So the two side brackets for the unit actually have the Jaditek logo engraved in them, so that's kind of neat. And of course, we get the spring bolt. Looks like a couple of 3D printed parts, a couple of U brackets, and the whole purpose of this is just to make this feel more mechanical than the clutch pedal that we have here, which is just a soft spring. So this will give us that more physical feel of the pedal actually engaging against the clutch plate and then releasing that pressure, right? So you get the clutch down. So super excited to actually get this together and try it out in the rig and see how it feels. Let's go ahead and throw it together. So we're going to take one of these plastic tubes and the two halves using the middle hole, and this hex bolt, or screw, sorry, and one of these acorn nuts to start the assembly. So obviously feed the bolt through, goes through the middle of that, goes through that hole, and then we'll work the acorn nut on. And then you're going to need the 5mm Allen key that came with the inverted pedal kit. And the instructions say to just do this by hand, essentially. But I'm never one for that. So I went out and grabbed a 10mm socket. Just to make sure. There we go. Next, we're going to put on the larger U bracket with a washer on either side, and these two Allen key screws. They will go into the top hole. You don't want to tighten this completely. This does need to pivot because this is the moving mechanical mechanism that you'll get in the feel of the pedal. So this is a little bit tricky, obviously, because you got to get all this to line up together while you're trying to feed the screw in, feed the washer in, get all the holes lined up. There we go. Get the two bolts in. And then we're going to use the two remaining acorn nuts along with a couple of grower washers, I believe these are called, just to keep the bolts from slipping off, obviously. But now we can use the included, I think it's a 4mm Allen key that's in the kit with the clutch mod. And again, it says to tighten these by hand, which we probably can do in this case because, again, we don't want to completely tighten this because this does have to move, but it does have to be somewhat tight. So get that in there. You know what? This is probably just going to be easier doing it this way. The washer and the acorn nut on there. Snugged up by hand. And just check to make sure this, yeah, see that's already a little too tight, so I've already over tightened this. So obviously you just have to play around with it, but the instructions do say that that mechanism has to be able to move somewhat freely. Okay, yeah, that seems okay. All right. Okay, so now we're going to install this piece along with this bolt or screw. And they're calling this the spring seat. So the flat part fits against the inside of this U bracket. And in particular, they're saying to make sure that these notches on either side are lined up with the bolts so that it doesn't impede. So you don't want to install it with these up, you want to install the notches facing either side of the bolt from when you put the U-bracket on. So you're just going to hold that in place and feed this in through the screw to the other side. And there's one nut that's not an acorn nut that's in the kit. This goes on the end of this M6x100 bolt. And now we can go ahead and insert the spring onto the spring seat. This U-bracket will go onto there. And while you're holding it in place, you want to get this acorn screw started. Doesn't take a lot of force to compress the spring enough to get that going. And then using the 5mm Allen key that came in the original kit, we can go ahead and we can tighten that up. And of course you can hold the acorn screw with the 10mm socket if you have it, or you can do it by hand. Again, I just feel a little better doing this with some tools instead of just by hand. And at the same time, you want to keep an eye on the spring seat and this U-joint and make sure that they are lined up with the other U-bracket that's there. Keep everything nice and straight in line. Okay, next they've included this reusable zip tie, which we're going to use to actually fully compress the spring. And once we have that done, then that allows us to assemble it into the clutch pedal. So it's actually got a little lever right here that lets you unclip the zip tie. Right now it's actually clamped in and I can't release it, so nice little tab there. Just going to feed this through the mechanism, feed it through the reusable zip tie. So it did take me a couple tries to get that to tighten down. There is the initial spring pressure is okay, but as you compress it more and more and more, it gets harder and harder and harder. But I do finally have it compressed down. Now we're going to go ahead and disassemble the clutch. Again, pedals are marked CVA for clutch brake accelerator, but obviously you've got your clutch in the right position. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the clutch pedal. I found I just couldn't get enough space in where I had mounted it to get at the nut that's holding the bolt into the bottom of the pedal. So this will just be easier if we just remove this from the plate, and we'll have to keep an eye on the cable, of course. We don't want to go pulling on it too much because it is very fine wiring in there. Just put that out to the side. And there we go. Now we have enough slack to take this guy apart. Allen key from the kit and our 10mm socket to break this free. Wow, that is really tight, guys. Good job, Logitech. Oh, it is it's a non-slip nut, that's why. Okay, so you're gonna need a little something more than just your average hand to get that nut to break away. There we go. All right, now we can pop this bolt out. So we can go ahead and obviously take the red part with the original spring out. So then we're going to have to remove this black piece, which is just held in by two small Allen screws on either side here, just behind the brake pedal. There is a 2.5mm Allen key that's included with the Clutch Mod kit, so we will use that. to remove these screws and then remove that black part. Slide that guy out. Okay, so when you remove the black piece, there's this brass insert that's inside the top here, so you do need to remove that. And this will actually go through the U-joint, or the U-bracket, the smaller U-bracket that's at the end of the spring. So now this can go back into the position where the black and the red piece was, and these holes here will line up at the bottom where the red part was, and the gold insert will line up at the top here, and we'll use the original screws that were holding the black piece to install this piece at the top. There we go, there's the top half. And then we're going to take the other, again, looks like a 3D printed tube, and it's going to go into the middle of the clutch mod bracket. And of course we want to make sure that we have the holes lined up here with the pedal and the mechanism. So you may have to play around with it a bit just to get it to line up. But with this tube inserted in there, and then the original bolt that was holding the red piece in, right? You want to feed that back through. So as a tip, if you're having trouble getting the bolt to come out to the other side, you can actually use the plastic tube in the middle to move things around. I was finding it was getting hung up on the inside there. And then we just go ahead and reinstall this non-slip nut, and again using the large Allen key and your socket wrench or whatever you have available, we can go ahead and tighten this guy up. There we go. And now we're just going to make sure that we get that pressure that we want, or that motion that we want. And then once we're ready, we can press the pedal forward and release the zip tie. And now, of course, you can go ahead and install the base to your rig using the remaining M8 bolts, screws, washers, and nuts that are also included in the kit. And you just use in the A-frame at the bottom, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 slots. So they are adjustable on your mounting plate. And there we go, there's the completed inverted pedal mod from Jaditek, including their clutch mod, accelerator, nice movement, brake pedal. Still have the original brake pedal spring in here, which is terrible. I do have the true power brake mod coming. I'll do another video on that later when it arrives, but I'm waiting for that before I put this on the rig. And then we have the clutch pedal, which now has a much more realistic pressure release feel to it. So I'm super excited to try this out and see how that feels. I'm sure it's going to be much more realistic. There'll be an addition to this video later when I actually get this remounted, and I'll let everybody know my final thoughts on what I think of all this.